Welcome, everybody, to the Nutrition by Carmen podcast. I'm so happy to be here giving you another episode on Monday morning if you're listening brand new, or if you choose to listen to these sort of back to back. Whenever you're listening, I'm just so grateful for all the support and just for people out there listening, because I just truly appreciate it. And the feedback I've received so far on the podcast has been super kind and so positive. And so I'm just, again, so grateful. And on that note, I just want to say, if there's ever any specific topic or subject or whatever it is that you are curious about and you want to know a little bit more about, definitely just let me know. Send me a message on my Instagram at Nutrition by Carmen if you aren't following me there, or you can email me info@nutritionbycarmen.com. Basically, if you just look me up, you'll find me and you can let me know. And I'm always happy to do a recording on topics that you guys are actually interested in, because clearly that is the value I want to provide always on this podcast. So on that note, I have a little bit of a different episode for you today. It is sort of a definitely nutrition related episode. It's also a life related episode and a stress related episode. Because, there's been just a lot of things going on in my life. I know a lot of people around me, there's just, so many different things happening. And I think it's important to be really transparent, just about if you are going through some difficult struggles and maybe ways to relieve some of that stress. And so I want to just update people and let you know that, if you listen to some previous episodes or you've seen on my Instagram, I went away for just over 3 weeks at the end of December into January to Argentina for our honeymoon, which was absolutely phenomenal. Frankly, I wish I could turn back time and be going on that trip right now all over again, but here we are. That is not reality. And as I came back from that trip, obviously so incredibly happy, looking at photos, all of that kind of stuff. And then there sort of became a little, quote unquote, honeymoon blues. And if you've ever experienced this, not just specifically for a honeymoon, but, if you've gotten married, you'll have maybe the wedding blues, or, whatever it is that you've done something that's been so exciting, such a build-up for, and in the blink of an eye, that exciting, happy event is over. And I think it's something that not enough people are talking about, because to be completely honest, I really wasn't prepared for how I would feel once I came home after this trip. And, if you followed me on Instagram as well, I also have been struggling with some gut health issues. And I am so happy to go into the details of that. If anybody is interested, I know sometimes, and myself included, I can get a little uncomfortable talking about gut health, because typically when we're not having a good time in the gut region, it is for, it's just not a happy time. And I think I was very caught off guard by this, because typically my digestion is something I never have to think about, which I'm so grateful for, because I've worked with a number of nutrition clients that have come to me to get their gut health, digestion, and all of that on track. And I now really understand the severity of bloating and constipation and not being able to have a regular bowel movement. And I know this stuff is really, as I said, uncomfortable and awkward maybe to talk about, but I just want to put it out there. I'm not going to dive into my full experience with it, but there is a major correlation between stressors and digestion. And I've noticed this time and time again when I've been in a very stressful or heightened situation. The body just knows. And so we have, the fight or flight system, I'm sure you've heard about, or the rest and digest system of our bodies. And these are like the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, if you want to get technical on it. But basically, when you're in a stressful situation, typically the response to that isn't, oh, I'm just going to, relax and just let things happen. If you're stressed and things are going on, you are, at least I am like, fist clenching, eyes wide open, and just, that kind of feeling. And that is sort of your fight or flight response, where you're kind of gearing up, you're ready for what's to come. With that response, though, is and can be systems shutting down in your body. And I'm not saying things are like absolutely that's it for your digestive system, but the body is so incredibly smart that, at least for me, and I don't know if anybody else out there listening has been in a similar situation where you notice that you are bloated, you are constipated, you have an upset stomach when you are stressed out. And so it's so funny because I always try and practice what I preach, especially with my nutrition clients, because if I'm giving advice or suggestions, those are things that I too have either tried and they worked, or it's something that I do on a habitual basis. So I will never suggest to try something that I haven't tried myself or hasn't worked for me. And so it's super interesting, and it's just something I want people listening to be aware of, that, if there's a week or a few days where your stomach is just off, digestion isn't where it normally is, you're feeling bloated, and, you're not totally sure why, you haven't changed your diet, look to see, step out for a moment and see what is going on in your life. Because if you are in stressful situations, that could be a very high chance of a link to, the upset stomachs that you're having. And so I think part of coming back from our honeymoon and feeling truly a little down about it, it's hard to go from 3 weeks of sun and all of that to, oh, here we are in reality. The body kind of knows, and it knows that I'm thinking about it, I'm worried about it, I'm stressed about it. And then the response to that is, we are just going to bottle everything up. It's going to be uncomfortable, and here we go. And I think as well, it's just important for me to say too, that I'm a nutrition coach. Most of my diet is fairly healthy, but I also get these issues as well, like everybody else. And I think that is also part of a struggle for me, because sometimes it is about, I feel almost quote unquote guilty for not feeling 100% because of the profession I'm in. But I just want people to know that if you are going through something stressful and your digestion is off, let's just take a step back and really try to look at the big picture of everything. And what's so interesting is, for my clients that have high stress jobs, they've got busy families, things on the go constantly, I will typically ask, like, okay, so tell me about this week, like what's been going on? And then they'll list off about 18 different things they've been trying to do, scheduling this, kids drop off, like it goes on. And I'm like, this kind of makes sense as to why things are not going the way you want in your digestive system. And, they call your digestive system the second brain of your body, because it's literally that important. And if, anybody out there is looking at my skin or your skin or other people's skin, typically your skin is a response of what is happening inside. And it's so interesting, and it's just fascinating because I go to see a wonderful lady, Dora, to get facials every so often. And I went to see her not long after I got back from my honeymoon. And we were just chit chatting. And she was like, "Is everything okay with your digestion?" And the reason she asked was because, and if you're looking on YouTube, I'm pointing here to sort of my chin area, my jawline. I had just dry, patchy rashes, red rashes that were, they just looked painful, but they weren't. But again, it's an immune response to the things that are not going well within your digestive system. And so I found that so interesting that she just asked that question right out because, you know, she's in the industry as well and she knows. So yeah, and I said, actually, Dora, I've really been struggling with my digestion, and you know, these rashes on my skin are a result of those stressors and things just not working properly. So it's just something to be aware of and to really pay attention to. And also to recognize as well that, you know, you are in a bit of a stressful situation whenever it is or whatever you're doing. And to have, and this is something I'm going to be working on without a doubt because it is a big weakness in my life. I am not great at handling stressors. And I fully admit that, and it's definitely something I am working on this year, in addition to just trying to be present and in the moment. That's another one of my goals, but just to make a list of a few things like, okay, this is my list of go-tos if I'm in a stressful situation. What are things that make me feel good? Because typically those are the things that relieve stress. And so walking is huge for me, especially outside. You know, it's freezing here in Vancouver right now, but the fresh air, the natural daylight, those are all amazing things for the body. And it just gives you that hit of and like relaxation, and you just feel so good. As well as really prioritizing sleep. It comes down to, you know, your body actually repairs, cells restore, they renew, all of this sort of stuff when you're sleeping. That's when your hunger hormones as well get the chance to replace. And so then, you know, they are ready to go for the next day so that you have those healthy meals and you're ready to enjoy really healthy and delicious meals when you've had a good quality sleep. I've spoken about this before. When you've had a disrupted sleep or a really bad night of sleep, like it's very hard to make good nutrition choices when you are sleep deprived, you're in a bad mood, you're stressed out. Like the last thing I want in that situation is like a great salad with chicken. No. I want a burger, I want fries, I want a milkshake, you know, all the stuff. So walking, fresh air, sleep, huge. And also a big one, I think, this is for me, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to this, is saying yes to every invite that comes your way. I know sometimes I have a tendency to agree to 18 different things, and in the moment I'm like, yes, that sounds great, okay, yeah, perfect, sounds good, oh sure, yeah, I'm available, all good. And then I go to look at my calendar and there is hardly any white space. Everything is booked, everything is blocked. I have not 10 minutes to myself, and that to me is so overwhelming. Obviously I love seeing my friends, my family, I love doing other things, but when you're constantly saying yes to every single invitation, it can be really overwhelming, especially if you've already had a busy week, you're already stressed out, digestion is off, and you know, you don't have a second to sit down. And again, that is something I am working on because I have a tendency, I don't like letting people down. And so I think, you know, as soon as a text message comes in, take a look at it, read it, okay, great. And just think about it for a moment. Look at your calendar, see what you have, and be like, you know, if it's something for this week, maybe your friend's wanting to go on a walk with you, or they're asking you to go for lunch. and you do have time, but maybe the time they're asking is your only free 2 hours in that day, I would simply suggest, definitely, yes, want to do lunch, want to do a walk, want to do coffee, but any chance we can just push it to the following week, I have a bit more flexibility then. And if someone is truly a good friend, they will have no issue with that. No issue at all. So just remember that, you're not declining every single invitation that comes your way, but you're simply putting yourself first, your time first, because that is huge. And then, spreading things out a little bit more will also help with stress management. And I really think that is such a huge thing that gets overlooked, especially now that our pandemic is, maybe not gone, but it is mostly gone. And, we can do basically everything we were able to do prior to the pandemic. So people are excited to just do all of this stuff, but then all of a sudden, people are also just so overwhelmed. And, it's just something to really make note of if you are someone that is finding yourself constantly exhausted, constantly stressed out, constantly in a crunch to finish doing things. Just, really take a step back and say, okay, you know what? This week I'm only going to do 2 social events, and that is it. And there's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day as well. And so again, these are all suggestions based on personal experience and also things my clients have noticed as well in their lives. I get my nutrition clients to make weekly goals, and some of my clients set social gathering goals because, when you're gathering as well, there might be alcohol involved, some fun foods in there. And if your goal is fat loss, you're trying to be healthy, sometimes having 6 of those events in 1 week is just really difficult. So I really admire and appreciate my nutrition clients that make that a goal and a priority, because it's definitely not easy to do in a social setting with peer pressure, all that kind of stuff. So I totally get it. Now, on that note as well, my body, and I'm sure other people out there, their body, I have been battling a cold, I've had a fever, just cough, sore throat, all of that stuff. And when I was like, why am I getting so sick? I'm never sick. I've never had digestive problems. All of this stuff is happening. And I went to look at the week I had prior to getting sick. And like I just mentioned, I looked at my calendar and I said, well, you know what? I'm not surprised now that I have become sick with a cold, a cough, all that stuff, because again, there was not hardly any 2 lines or more that I had free time in my week, the week before I got sick. I was on the go, I was doing way too much, and literally my body was just like, nope, I'm gonna punish you by getting you sick. And so again, our bodies are just so intuitive, they know. And it's almost like a sign to pump the brakes, slow down. It will all be okay. And at the end of the day, everything always works out. Like, is that not true? So I know it's easier said than done for sure. And it's interesting because I really try and emphasize all the positive highlights that my clients have day in, day out, every week. And it's so easy to fixate on the things that aren't going right. And typically, the things that are not going right only take up a fraction of your day, your life as a whole. But the time spent thinking about those things can be up to 100%. And that is a tricky situation because when you're constantly thinking about the couple of things that might not be going right, you tend to neglect the things that have really gone well in the week. And so this is another thing that I am trying to work on. I encourage my clients to work on. And if you are listening and you're not a client, that might be something as well for you to look at and to focus on too, because it's just so easy to fixate in on the one thing that's not going your way when there might be 10 other things that have been fantastic. So this is just sort of a, very transparent episode, nutrition related, yes, but also life related at the same time, because, if I'm enrolling a new client, excuse me, here I am just still trying to get over this thing. I say, it's not just about the food you eat. It's about life in general. How are you sleeping? How are you handling stress? How much are you moving your body? How much alcohol are you having? Are you hydrated? All of this kind of stuff. And because those are huge pillars and factors that can really dictate optimal health. And if there's a couple of those things that are out of whack, that can really have an impact on your overall well-being. And so my goal as a nutrition coach, and even just me as a person, is to ensure that the things we're doing day in and day out really align with my goals, my clients' goals, and all of that kind of stuff. So this was a little more of a quicker episode. I know, I'm sorry for those of you that like the longer episodes. I will also say that my gut health is so much better now, like unbelievable. I'm basically back to normal, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Again, you can message me or email me, but at the end of the day, I've definitely learned from getting sick and not being able to do my walks, do my workouts, do my spin classes, that, without your health, it's really hard to do much else. So for sure, prioritizing your health, but that also means pumping the brakes, slowing down, taking a breath, and just not overcommitting yourself to everything that comes your way. And obviously that is so easy to say. I can say it right now, but am I good at doing that? Absolutely not. So just to share that I'm a work in progress like everybody else. And, it's just something that happens all the time. And, it's how we handle these stressors that truly have an impact on how our body functions. It's pretty unbelievable. So I'm hoping there's something in this episode that you might be able to relate to or implement into your own life as well. And, just remember, at the end of the day, you have full control over the decisions you make. And, that might sound harsh to some people, but I always say that because I think it's actually an amazing thing. Like, how great is it to know that I actually have control over the things that I'm doing? That is pretty freaking powerful. And so just knowing that, heading into every single day, every single week, every single month, just remember that the decision to do whatever is totally in your control. So I'm going to just leave it at that. Short and sweet little episode here for you guys. And I have, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for one guest in particular that is going to be on this podcast. So if you are listening and you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please also leave me a written comment. I know I ask that almost every time, but truly this podcast can reach so many more people just with a love this podcast comment. Something as simple as that. That takes less than 15 seconds to write. I would so appreciate it because I would just love to get this out to as many people as possible. So on that note, thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Instagram if you like, and hopefully there was some, really good golden nuggets of awesome information in here that might help anybody out there listening that is going through a bit of a hectic time. And I'm also always happy to chat. If you want to message me and say, do you have 5 minutes to talk? I will never say no to that. So just remember, you always have somebody to talk to. If you feel like there's nobody out there listening, I will. So thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you on the very next episode.